Her dead body was floating in a tank, but I'd just seen her alive on the monitor. She's been dead for 8 years. So who or what have I been watching? And what the hell do they want from me? To better understand part 2, make sure to watch part 1 on the channel. I stumbled forward, my legs improving as I walked, and when I grabbed the doorknob, it turned easily. I expected to find her bedroom, but instead I stepped into another room, similar to the last but filled with strange machines. At the back stood a huge cylinder taller than me, filled with gray liquid. Inside, it was a shape. "Go ahead, Thomas. Feel free to have a good look. You've earned it." Mr. Solomon's words made my stomach twist. My legs felt heavy again, but not from the drugs. As I shuffled forward, the shape became clear. A person, or rather a body, clearly dead, though preserved. The skin looked wrong, bloated in places. Oh God. Its hair floated away, revealing Rachel's face staring back at me. "Murderer!" I yelled, turning to run at Solomon until he shot me. I hit the ground, convulsing as he stepped closer. "Don't worry, Thomas. It won't kill you, just keeps you from moving much." More footsteps followed as I was carried back to the padded table and strapped down. I couldn't move, could barely see from crying, but I saw Solomon sit in front of me again. "Before you ask, yes, that is Rachel. Not a fake or a trick. The time for tricks is over. Now comes the truth." He sighed. "Showing you her like that may seem cruel. You may hate me, I'd understand. But you called me a murderer, and in this context, that's unfair. I didn't kill Rachel. I've only been on this part of the project for 7 years." He gestured toward the door. "Rachel's been dead for over 8. I felt my eyes widen. Lies. Tricks. It had to be. Do you know what remote viewing is?" He rolled his eyes. "Right, you can't talk. I'll assume you don't. It's the ability to see things far away beyond normal senses. Some call it psychic. There are different theories." His gaze locked with mine. "But it works, Thomas. Governments, private groups, they've studied it for years, and some people are just born with it." "Rachel was one of those people," Solomon said. "She joined the program at 17 after being identified through a psychological test disguised as a paid study. 3 months later, she was taken in. After the adjustment period, she became a compliant asset and quickly rose to the top of our talent pool." He folded his hands. "I know you cared for her, Thomas, so I want to be clear. Rachel wasn't treated badly, aside from the confinement and the occasional uncomfortable test. We valued her. She was enormously gifted, not just as a remote viewer, but as an artist. That's how she shared what she saw. She'd enter a trance-like state and paint, giving us images and words that became incredibly valuable. That's why the paintings were never shown to the camera." Picking at his pants, he continued. "Rachel was so gifted, she was chosen for a new program. We introduced something foreign into her body. At first, her accuracy dropped, but later we realized we were misreading the new paintings. Her visions had expanded beyond the present. She was seeing through time." He paused dramatically. "At first, it seemed like a breakthrough. Then one day she showed a painting to the camera. It said, 'Please help me, Thomas.' That triggered an investigation. Who was Thomas? None of her contacts fit." Solomon leaned back, pride in his voice. "I suggested she might be seeing and trying to talk to someone in the future. Later, she painted another message. 'That girl isn't me.' But then she declined rapidly. 5 days later, she went into cardiac arrest and died. We couldn't resuscitate her," he sighed. "It was a huge loss, but her messages still pointed to someone, likely someone named Thomas. If he was watching the feed in the future, maybe he worked for us. So I started the Thomas Project. For 7 years, I screened and hired 43 men named Thomas across several sites. All were tasked with watching Rachel's footage, from just before her implant to her death. I tried to speak, to say it was a lie, a trick, but I wasn't sure anymore. I was starting to believe him. The goal wasn't just to watch, but to see how they reacted, what they did, and how it matched Rachel's behavior. 13% quit after the first day. 38% hit red or green after seeing her message. 22% tried to contact the authorities before reaching the Melanie stage." He shook his head. "We assumed that girl isn't me meant a double was introduced to you, someone meant to dissuade or deceive you. It took a few tries, but only 27% reached that point, and all of them failed the next test." He pointed at me. "Her name. You see, the girl you've been watching, that talented, beautiful girl whose body is preserved next door? Her name was Rachel Donovan. I always wondered if she was just seeing you, or if there was a deeper connection. But when you called Melanie Rachel, I knew. You're the one. You're the Thomas she saw across space and time." I swallowed and finally managed to speak, just barely. "Why?" Solomon looked surprised. "I'd have thought that'd be clear by now. You're our only remaining link to one of our greatest treasures. Maybe you have a similar ability. Or maybe she forged the link on her own. Either way, you're important, and there's more work to do. He stood and turned on a monitor. It lit up with a frozen image of Rachel's room, paused where I'd left off. Then he turned back to me, looking solemn. I spent the next 5 days watching Rachel die. On the surface, the footage didn't look that different from what I'd watched for 3 years. She slept, read, painted, watched TV. But if you were paying attention, there were signs. She was tired, tense, sleeping more. And sometimes, just now and then, she would glance up at the camera, at me. That's when I saw it, the fear and sadness in her eyes. Inside, I felt like a burned-out house collapsing in on itself. At first, I refused to watch, refused to give them what they wanted. Solomon didn't get angry, just shrugged. Said cooperation was preferred, but not required. Either way, he told me the video would start and wouldn't stop for 5 days. Watching was my choice. I wanted to resist, but deep down, I knew I'd watch. Maybe I'd find proof she wasn't really dead. Maybe she left a message, or maybe I just needed to see her again. Even knowing it had all happened long ago, it felt like I could still be with her somehow. She was taken young, locked away, experimented on, treated like property, no family, no friends, no freedom. And still, she was kind, brave, beautiful, inside and out. I had come to know her in ways no one else ever would. Her strength, her grace, the wonder in her paintings. I wasn't going to abandon her now. So I watched, barely eating, only stepping away for the bathroom. By the 4th day, I was in a fog. I dozed off. When I woke, hours had passed. 2 trays of food sat untouched. I panicked, thinking I missed something. But Rachel was just waking up too. She held her stomach, already hurting. She looked at the camera and tried to smile before setting up a new canvas. This was the second of her final 3 paintings. The first had shown the inside of an old movie theater, viewed from the back. On the screen, a sledgehammer leaned against a brick wall. I scanned it for a message, some hidden meaning. Then I saw it. The seats in front of the viewpoint had brass number plates, upside down, but still visible. 2, 43, 26, 89. I didn't understand any of it, but I memorized every detail, staring at the painting until she finally took it away. Even then, I could tell the effort was draining her. Like I had so many times before, I caught myself talking to her, telling her to rest, before remembering her body lay in the next room. I almost stopped, but I didn't. Maybe she couldn't hear me. Maybe she could. Either way, it helped, made me feel less alone. The next painting, the one she started after I woke from a few hours of sleep, was the strangest yet. It showed a room with walls of tangled tree roots, curved like a living cave. In the center was a small table made of the same twisted wood. Some roots were deep red. Others, especially the table, looked charred and black. Hovering over the table, I saw the shadow of a person cradling a long, oval-shaped bundle. I studied it for hours, even after she took it away. I couldn't decipher its meaning. I wasn't smart enough. I was failing her. Rachel slept a long time after that. Then, on the 5th day, her last, she got up and started painting again. She worked faster this time. I saw her wince now and then, but her focus never wavered. When she finished, she turned the painting toward the camera and gave me a small, tired smile. It was a view from a porch in the country. The morning light spilled over fields and trees in the distance. But the focus was on 2 hands in the foreground, clasped together tightly. Their fingers glowed with red and orange light from the rising sun. I started to cry. Part of me cried because I didn't understand, because I felt like I was losing something important forever. But part of me cried because that painting, her last, somehow gave me hope. I didn't know why or how. I just felt that maybe Rachel was telling me that somewhere, someday, things would be okay. Then I saw movement, figures entering her room with medical gear, and the monitor went black. "You've done well, Thomas. Very, very well," Solomon said. Okay. "In the past 5 days, we charted 1,047 micro-variations in Rachel's behavior that seemed to correspond to your emotions while watching. As before, the 2 of you were synchronized, like you were in the same room. It's remarkable." I stared at him, hollow. I didn't care. I just wanted this over. Clearing his throat, he continued, "That's why we've decided to move the implant from Rachel into you. One of many reasons we've kept her body preserved. The foreign body was still showing signs of life, just barely, and we were afraid to remove it before. But with your connection to her, we believe it might accept you, possibly even thrive." I shot to my feet, rage surging, but Solomon calmly raised a gun. I froze. "Don't you dare talk about her like that, like she was just a vessel. I'll kill you." He sighed, lips tight. "No, you won't. But if it helps you cope, go ahead and say it." Shaking, I sat back down. "What is this thing you're putting in me?" He considered me a moment, then said, "Somewhere there's a tree. A very special one. We believe it's the same tree Rachel painted once. We've never found it, either hidden well or hiding itself. But we have a piece, an ancient clipping, gained at great cost. He leaned closer, smiling slightly. We were told it could grow in the right soil. We thought that was Rachel, but she died before it finished. Now we think it might be you. They came for me, and I fought. It didn't matter. I woke later sore, a healing scar just below my ribs. I didn't feel much different yet, but I knew that would change. And then I heard something. A voice? No, more like a melody. Soft, faint. Not in the room, but in my head. I thought, Rachel? Had some piece of her remained? But no, it wasn't her. I'd never heard her voice, but I could tell. This wasn't her. This was something older, stranger, a song. The song of the thing now living inside me. At first, I was afraid, but that didn't last. It wasn't trying to hurt me, it was trapped like I was. Then it began to sing, telling me it was time to be free. I stood and walked to the door. The lights went out, the lock clicked. I turned the knob, it opened. Why hadn't it done this for Rachel? No time to wonder. I could already hear boots and see flashlight beams down the hall. If I was going to escape, it had to be now. The voice sang again, urging me on. So I ran. Doors unlocked, turns kept me hidden. I heard them shouting over radios, but the halls stayed dark. I moved fast, unseen, until I opened the final door into bright afternoon. The fresh air burned my lungs. The voice had gone silent. I panicked. Where now? To the left, Rachel's forest. Exactly like her painting. I felt drawn to it. I knew I had to go there. I reached the woods as the men came out behind me. I ran deeper, reckless but never falling. I thought I'd lost them, until a cough sounded nearby. Someone was close. I scanned for a hiding place. Trees, bushes, and a well. Rachel's well. I crept over, slid the lid, then backed into the brush. 2 men approached. He better not be down there. One shoved the lid, shining a flashlight down. I stayed still, heart pounding. I waited for a shout or a gunshot, but nothing came. Dusk fell. I reached a road and climbed up to it, cars passing like normal. Hitchhiking scared me, but I had no choice. A semi stopped. The driver leaned out. "You look lost, son. Need a ride?" I smiled. "Yes, sir, I do." I woke up 5 hours later as we pulled into a truck stop somewhere in Nevada. I glanced at Oliver Martinez, the driver, who grinned at me. "I'm going on to California after fueling up. If you want to ride further, be back in an hour." I thanked him and got out. Unsure if I should ask for help or keep going, I decided to look around the town first. 3 blocks away, I saw a movie theater, just like Rachel's painting. "Hey there, welcome to the Phoenix," said the guy at the candy counter. He looked friendly but confused. "If you're here for the horror double feature, you're about 30 minutes late." "Half price?" I shook my head. "Actually, I recognize this place from a painting. A friend of mine painted it. I was wondering if you knew her." He raised a brow. "Weird, but interesting. Who is she?" I swallowed. "Her name was Rachel Donovan." He just shrugged. "Sorry, doesn't ring a bell. You could ask the owner, but he's on vacation this week." Nodding, I searched for something else to ask. "Is there anything unique about this place? Its history or something?" The guy grinned. "You're clearly not from here. This whole town's boring. Only interesting thing I've heard is a house that burned down here back in the 20s or 30s, before this was even part of town. That's about it." I sighed. "Okay, well, thanks." I turned to leave. "Hey, sorry I couldn't help more. Come back sometime. I'll give you half off a movie. Just say Marshall said so." I waved and headed for the door, heart heavy. Why bring me here, Rachel? What was I supposed to find? Outside, I caught movement in the alley beside the theater. Curiosity sparked. I followed it. At the end, behind a fence, I saw it. The tree from Rachel's painting, red bark and bright green leaves glowing faintly in the night air. I climbed the fence, cutting my leg but barely noticed. The smell of the tree was warm and rich. As I touched it, the singing returned. A light opened at its roots, a glowing tunnel. Without fear, I entered. The tunnel sloped downward, lined with roots. Behind me, it closed. I didn't care. I walked for what felt like hours, never tired or lost. Then I reached a brick wall until it faded, revealing a basement with a 2 scratched on the floor. Rachel's painting flashed in my mind. The house above was empty but familiar, near a beach on a deserted island, and the tree was there too. It was the same tree somehow. This didn't feel like my world anymore. It felt different, but not wrong. After exploring, I grew lonely. I returned to the tunnel. Soon I found another house, this time not empty. A workshop with strange tools and 43 scratched on the floor. I was about to look around the house more carefully since it seemed like someone lived there when I stopped in my tracks. Leaning against a pile of wooden boards was a sledgehammer. I crept over quietly, picked it up, and slipped back into the tunnel. When I was a kid, before my dad died, he loved to hunt. I didn't go with him, but I remember his old hound dog, Rockefeller. Rocker for short. That dog only loved two things: my dad and following a scent. When he got a whiff of something, he'd go nuts, zigzagging, nose to the ground, completely focused. Even if he looked lost, he always found what he was after. Right now, I felt like Rocker. I moved quickly, taking turn after turn. I didn't know how I knew where to go, but I just knew. Gripping the sledgehammer, I followed the sound of music in my head until, suddenly, it stopped. Another brick wall. I stepped closer, and like before, it faded away. This basement was smaller. It had a table, a clothes chest, and a broken metal bed. At the far wall, a woman was smashing the bricks with one of the bed legs. My head swam. When she turned and looked at me, wide-eyed, the sledgehammer slipped from my hands. "Rachel?" I breathed. She looked confused, but her voice was calm. "Yeah? Do I know you?" It was her, but not. Older, tougher, less sad than the Rachel I'd known. I didn't know what to say. She raised an eyebrow. "You came out of the tunnel, right?" I nodded. "Where did you come from? I mean, before the tunnel?" "Texas, originally," I said awkwardly. She smirked, then asked, "So, do you know how the tree works? How did you find the tunnel?" I sighed and blurted everything, watching another version of her, the tree inside her, escaping by following the clues in her paintings until she stopped me laughing. Okay, breathe. And did you say sledgehammer?" Whack. "So yeah, I believe you." She swung again, explaining how her ex tricked her, tried to make her take his place with the tree, how he trapped her in here and walled her in with concrete. Whack. "I call him Fuckface now," she said with a smirk. I offered to take over. "We can take turns." She agreed, and I swung. Whack. "How long have you been stuck here?" "About 8 months," she said. "What? How are you alive?" "The tree. It won't let me die. I dip into the tunnel now and then. I don't get hungry or thirsty much." "Why not just leave through the tunnel?" She shook her head. "Nope, I've seen enough other worlds. Some are awful. I just want to go back to mine and figure out how to break this tree connection forever." I smiled. "I'm glad I came and brought a sledgehammer." She smiled back. "Me too." We were drenched in sweat by the time we broke through the outer wall. Rachel thought her ex was long gone, but we still moved carefully. With the hammer in hand, we went upstairs. The house was quiet. No one was around. Outside, the sun was rising. On the porch, Rachel took my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. I hadn't been able to save the other Rachel, but maybe that was never the point. Maybe she'd seen not just the future, but other realities, and guided me here, to this Rachel, so we could both be free. The morning light painted her face in soft gold. Looking at her, I saw so much of the woman I had tried to help, the woman who, in the end, had saved me. There was so much I wanted to ask, but that could wait. Holding her hand, we walked away from the house, together.